What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Parenting. Joe Sib here with you, with my co-host,
Anea Vogue.
Yes, we're hanging out. Anea, how are you?
I'm pretty well, thank you. Yeah.
I'm
glad the sun is out again.
Finally.
And here in LA, we can't go with like more than a day or two of freaking clouds.
Yeah, for all our listeners on the East Coast, they're like, you know what? F you and your sunshine. Yeah. Okay, cool. You and I haven't seen each other in a while.
How long has it been?
It's been a little while.
Weeks?
You know, we got a lot of shows coming up, a lot of shows to tape. The guest on our show today, I'm super psyched about. Can you hand me her book?
Oh, yes.
Because I
and
gave
then you need
this
to
to
hand
you.
it back to me.
Well, you check it out. I gave you this book and you took it and you never gave it back.
Sorry.
Because it's that good.
I was into it. It is that good.
It is that good.
Yep.
That is a good. Okay, so check it out. I have the author in here. First of all, the name of the book is This is a Book for Parents of Gay Kids. There you go.
Boom.
And in the studio with us, Kristin Russo. How are you?
I'm so good. Hi.
I got to say, you're a tough one to lock down. We've been trying to do this. How many times?
Yeah, it feels like, well, it was getting to the point where I'm like, who is this now? Like, is this somebody new or is this still you?
It's still the same Kristin.
We're happy you finally made it.
I got to let our listeners know how we pulled it all together. So, a few months ago, we had our friend in here, and we did a show on coming out.
Oh,
and
Clay. When Clay was in here.
And it was amazing. And if you get a chance, go back to that episode. It's called Coming Out, and he told his whole story about coming out in Salt Lake City. An artist that I work with on Side One Dummy, Allison Weiss, got a hold of it. She's like, oh my gosh, I love your podcast. This is a great, great story. We started talking, and then all of a sudden, she's like, you need to meet my friend, Kristin. And she has this great book. I reached out to you, totally like Hail Marying, like I hope she hits me back. You hit me back right away. Then I met you at the Meltdown, where Jenny played.
Right,
And
my wife, who already knew you.
Yeah. And then I did comedy that night. And it was, I did comedy that night. And I know I didn't do well because when I went back up to Kristin, I go, hey, how's it going? After I got done. And she just said, everything's fine. Like, never brought up the 15 minutes I was on stage. And that's a sign.
Not true.
Like, and I was trying to like pry it out of you. Like, yeah. And she's like, so what have you been up to? I'm like, well, I just did that. And she's like, oh, that's nice. Okay. So when can I come on the show? I was like, oh my God.
That's actually why I've been so hard to pin down. I was like, oh,
this guy.
no,
Yeah,
no, that's not true. That was a great show. That was a great show.
God. That was a great show. It was like it was a variety show. Anea does a show like that every.
Stand Up for Girls. We do a charity event
really?
every like usually in the spring, April.
And we always do it at the Improv in Hollywood. I've been a part of it before.
So
it's super cool. But I'm so grateful that you're here on the show. I'm so grateful to get all of us together. Once again, name of the book, This is a Book for Parents of Gay Kids. And I love the title because there's nothing left to the imagination. And I'm a dude that needs that. Like, I'd be like, okay, I got to get this book.
I know what this is about. I don't even have to read the back cover.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that was intentional.
Okay.
It was hard. It's hard to title a book.
Let's just start at the very beginning. Your whole background, if you can kind of broad stroke it for our listeners, up until the point of getting this book out and all that.
Sure. Well, so in 2010, I started a website called everyoneisgay.com, which really was born as a Tumblr. I had met a friend of mine, Danielle Owens-Reed, who wrote the book with me. We had just met like 2 weeks prior to this conversation. She had just started a blog called Lesbians Who Look Like Justin Bieber.
Yes, I read that.
Which is very funny. And we had a chat and we started a Tumblr just to be very like sassy and funny. The first advice question we ever answered was, how do I know if my dog is gay? Right. So we were just trying to be whatever.
Yeah.
And then we uncovered this huge need. And young people were just like flocking to the Tumblr that eventually became a full website. We began answering advice in 2010, started making videos, and then we did a national tour of colleges and universities in 2011. And by 2012, we had interacted with so many LGBT young people. And the like common question amongst all of them was, what do you have for my parents? Can you make videos for my parents? Because, you know, the way you talk, it's just more accessible. And I think that they would really get it. And so we wrote a book proposal and submitted it. And then Chronicle Books out in San Francisco picked it up, and the rest is history.
Wow.
Yeah.
So good.
But it was very organic for us. You know, it came from them asking for it and needing something new. Because when we looked, because the first thing that we did was not say, oh, we'll write a book. We looked to see what was there. And there really was not very much. Everything that we found was super clinical or like written in the 60s or 70s.
Right. And I'm assuming that the kinds of questions that you were getting beyond the, how do I know if my dog is gay? That the all important,
very common,
all important and very common question was there. There must have been something in the in the content of the questions that made you feel like, well, no, not just that there's a need, but there's an importance here. Like these kids need a place to get this information.
Absolutely. Yeah. From the young people themselves, certainly that there was a lot of power in it because some of it, of course, had to do with our answers, but a lot had to do with them seeing that so many of them had the same questions, that like part of it was just the platform where they could see that they weren't alone, which, as someone who came out in 1998, right on the cusp of the internet, that was not a part of my experience. Most of the questions I felt I had in isolation. And my mom, which I'm sure we'll talk about, very similar, right? She didn't have any way to find, if she would meet a gay person, she would like corner them and ask them a million questions. That was her way in.
Yeah, it's no different than when you're a parent, and whether it's a homeschooling parent, you meet another parent that's homeschooling, or if you're thinking about it, you're like, I got to ask you every single question. The thing I got to rewind really quick. So when you started it, it really just was to have this blog at this Tumblr page, have fun with it, and then all of a sudden you guys feel, wow, we're really making a difference here. What did it feel like when you started to go to those colleges to speak for the first time, and to have kids go, hey, would they come up to you afterwards like, hey, I got to talk to you? How do I talk to my own parents? Or was it very just open, like, hey, we're here and we need to ask you some more questions? And were you really taken back by that?
Yeah, I mean, just from like moving from the internet space to a physical space was very overwhelming because we knew we had like followers on the internet who would like our stuff, but when we were in these schools and these like huge audiences were turning up, and at the end, exactly, people would line up and ask, because we would do a Q&A after the event that was sort of for everyone, but we never could answer.
And this is before the book, so they're just doing a Q&A with you just because you just spoke for an hour in front of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and then, all manner of questions. I mean, certainly more than just coming out to parents, but those parent-specific questions, all different kinds of, like, points in the journey. I haven't come out yet, and I don't know how to. What's the best way? Can I write a letter? Is it okay if I text? Can I come out on Facebook? Is that all right? Like, that sort of thing. And then young people who had come out and were dealing with, their parents thinking it was a phase, or their parents not accepting them, or, to the other extreme, their parents being so excited that they were gay that they were just like constantly talking about their gay kid, and their kid was like, could you please tell my parent that like I appreciate the pride, but maybe dial it down a notch.
Right.
So yeah, there were so many questions.
Yeah. Well, you want to start first, Anea?
Yeah, I mean,
both you and I know have so many.
Yeah, we have so many
questions. We'll have her here for like 2 hours.
So I think first of all, to frame this in a real, and not that it's hard because your book is really directed to parents, but I think we often talk here about the importance of conscious parenting and the goal of, more than anything else, parenting in a way that the way I summarize it is that provides guidelines with space for our children to explore and figure out who they are. Mm-hmm. Because the happiest, healthiest, most whole human beings are those who have had, I believe, the opportunity to do that. We also had a show a couple of weeks ago talking about human sexuality. We had a doctor of human sexuality in here. And the whole idea that our sexuality is such a huge part of our humanity that for a young person through adolescence, which is already a butt kicker, like to have to also contemplate in understanding who they are, their sexuality in a way that feels like, but what if this is completely unacceptable, especially to the people that I love most and that I need to love me and accept me. So I think this is so important. I think it's important to maybe throw out a quick stat just so parents listening understand the importance of a book like this and knowing how to approach this topic with their children. What are the stats around adolescents who are at risk of suicide, who happen to also be gay or bisexual?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's various sources for stats, but, one of the probably most accessible statistic that I've seen is that LGB youth, so lesbian, gay, bisexual, when we're talking about sexuality, those youth are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than the rest of, young people. And I don't have the specific statistic for trans youth, but I'm certain that it's even higher than that. Mm-hmm. And that, when I talk about like statistics like this and when I talk about suicide, it's like, it isn't the fact that they are LGBTQ that is making them, it's not their identity that's putting them at higher risk. It's exactly what you're speaking about. It's the fact that they're finding that they're feeling like they're not normal. They're feeling like they can't speak about who they are.
That's right.
And that in any instance, when you feel like you have to withhold a part of you or that a part of you is wrong or bad,
that's right.
You're put at higher risk.
Yes. And that's what, so thank you for clarifying that. And I think it really is important because I come from a place of believing that most parents, maybe all parents, whether they're screwing it up big time or not, their intention is to do right by their kids, to have their children have a slightly better, journey than they maybe did or whatever.
Absolutely.
But we just so often don't have the tools.
Yeah, because I'm sitting here right now listening to the two of you talking. The first thing that went through my mind is when I was growing up, obviously, I don't know if I'm the oldest in the room, probably am.
Yep.
Okay. I know that you're going to it's like, you are.
You are.
You are 20 years older than me, Joseph. No, but I remember as a kid growing up, there wasn't a book like this for my friends that were gay, and you knew your friend that was gay would tell you, and you'd be like, okay, what do we do? And you're not gay, but you're like, bro, we got to sort you out, and then just the shame that they would have, because at school or with all of us, and I grew up in the punk rock community, that was the reason why they were hanging out, because no one they could feel comfortable there, they could be who they were, they could be accepted, but in a place where there's 50 of you and you're all kids, it's super tough when mom and dad might not. And I couldn't imagine, like I knew, as a kid growing up, just the pressures, like you said, Anea, of just being an adolescent, figuring out who you are, figuring out your own sexuality, straight or not, that was hard enough to maneuver. I couldn't imagine figuring that all out and having on the back of my mind that maybe grandma's not going to like me anymore, or mom's not going to like me, or so-and-so's, the neighbors are going to think I'm weird, all the stigmas that come along with it. So those statistics that you say, I'm actually surprised that it couldn't be higher, because that's too heavy of a load for a young person to carry.
Well, and I'll tell you what, I mean, any statistic like this it's measured, it's science, and this is a really hard thing to measure because when you're doing surveys like this, that means the young person has to feel comfortable.
That's right.
Coming
absolutely.
out, right? So I'm sure you're absolutely right.
Yeah, as soon as you roll in for the survey, you've come out.
Yeah, exactly. And and no matter how many times a person tells you like this is confidential, when you haven't come out yet, you might
terrifying.
not be
terrifying.
Yeah, you might not trust that it's going to be confidential. So any studies done with the LGBT community at large are, I think, mostly lean, towards the lower end of what the actual numbers are, for sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to talk about, so my experience with this is my brother when he was, I want to say he was about 20 when he came out. And it was so interesting for me to read the book and go, oh my gosh, yes, that and that and that. Like everything from my own, he told me first, and my own reaction initially was,
how long ago, how early before 20 did he tell you?
He probably told me about a year before he told my parents. And you have to know, like, I love my baby brother. Like, we have just always been so close. And so when he told me, I was actually a little bit surprised. I don't know why, but I just was genuinely like, oh my gosh, I love you. Like, thank you so much for telling me. And it was a very genuine, like, accepting. And then about 48 hours later, I had a night that I did not sleep because I laid awake in sheer terror that he was either going to get AIDS, he was going to be the target of a hate crime and be like beaten up or killed or whatever. And I felt so helpless and just so scared. And I moved through that night without sleep. And on the other side of it, I was like, okay, it's going to be okay. And then I was wanting to be there for him to ultimately tell my parents. And that was also interesting because my dad, and I think a lot of young men who come out are most afraid of how their dads are going to react. My dad was amazing. Like, he's like, I love you. Like, I love you no matter what. Like, no big. My mother, of course, had a similar, like, she was, embraced him and was loving. But I know my mother struggled a little bit more because she was so, also in the book, one of those parents that had this idea of what her son's life was going to look like. But he would make such a great father. And again, like many of the parents you reference, this idea of, well, if my kid is gay, all of the other things that go with a heterosexual life are off the table, which of course, thankfully, because we're evolving as a society, is just less and less true.
Totally.
And so it took a longer time for her, though, to come around. And I think to struggle with her own worry of, like, how are people going to view me as a parent? And I think we need to talk about that. Is for parents who are struggling, it's your individual thing. of, okay, as a parent, some of the titles of your chapters, like, did I do something wrong? Like, is this
I love the titles of
me?
the chapters because for me, because I'm so ADD, like I would just cruise around
That's
to
right.
different chapters.
Yeah.
It's a lot like your book, Anea, in the sense that like for a guy like me, and hey, listeners, that's like, I know some of you are totally like, I know I'm the same guy. I would just cruise around and the titles of the chapters drew me in. I'd read that and I'd understand, okay, and I'd move
And
around
you
to
can
the
just
next
go
thing.
there. Exactly. It's you don't have to read from cover to cover, so it's a little less intimidating.
Exactly.
A little bit.
Yeah, and we did that intentionally because, not everyone reads a book cover to cover. And, you might have, like, there's a whole chapter on religion. There's a whole chapter on gender identity. And these are questions you might have specifically, or you might not have at all. You might not
That's
need to
right.
visit the religion chapter if you're not a religious person,
Right.
So you can kind of
I love though that you gave that option though.
Yeah.
I think that's really important because I think when you're talking about a topic like this, you got to keep everyone
the goal,
involved.
I mean, and we talked a little bit about the title, but the goal with this was really to make it accessible. Because if you write the best book in the world and it's not accessible, then, who are you hitting? And titling this was hard because it's not just a book for parents of gay kids. It's a book for parents of bisexual kids. It's a book for parents of transgender kids. But we knew that a lot of parents didn't know maybe the acronym. We knew, like, the word queer especially is generationally very divisive.
Yes.
And so we went with this title. And actually in the book, there's an explanation of the way we use the word gay and why we did it.
Yes, I saw that.
But it was for that purpose, that a parent is going to see that and be like, that's my kid, like that's going to get it in their hands.
But the other thing that this brings up, and I said this to Joe earlier, is that I found myself with this book, I was immediately realized, like, oh, so if I walk around with this book, like even sitting on my kitchen table, and it's like, oh, people are going to come into, this should be interesting. People are going to come in and go, oh, so which one of them, Anea?
I was wondering right now when we were talking about that how many, I'm wondering over, because it came out in 2015, 14?
2014.
Okay, cool. So it's been out 2 years. We're going on 3 years. I want to know how many kids were like, I got to come out, and they just go, they just put that book on mom's car seat,
God.
or put the book on
many.
a desk. Oh, are you serious?
So
yeah,
many.
I totally thought of that. I was like, that's how I'd be like, boom, here you go.
I didn't think of it. I wrote the book and I didn't even think that would ever be a thing, but we went on a book tour. We went on like a 21 city book tour when this came out, and the amount, and it was like in November or October, November, the amount of young people that came up to get the book signed and said, this is my Christmas present to my parents and this is how I'm coming out. We were like, oh man, for real.
Yes.
Well, how did that feel?
Yeah, I mean, it was really incredible because, like, I mean, it is a big thing. Coming out is like a moment. It's scary no matter which way you do it. But I thought, wow, that's pretty brilliant because you're coming out and they immediately have a resource.
And I was going to say a resource.
Exactly. And you know what else
with real numbers.
is a resource? The thing that, I mean, there are many things that stand out about this book, but I want to say that it is so compassionate. There is nothing, so for a parent to pick up this book, there's nothing that feels like pointed or like, you're screwing up or, this is on you, or it's a very like, just as it's going to be hard for your child to come to you and tell you, or it was hard for your child to come and tell you, we understand that it's also difficult as a parent because it means that you have to process a whole bunch of stuff you probably didn't anticipate having to process.
Absolutely. And that's like, if there's one through line to the book and to a lot of the work that I do, especially with parents, it's that you have a process too.
Yeah.
Your child may have known or may have been thinking about this for months or years even before telling you. So they've had some time to kind of like feel how this is in their skin and what have you. For you, that first moment of knowing, that's step one.
Yes.
And I think a lot of parents, my mom included, felt like she really messed up the first moment, and now thankfully I'm able to go back and sort of explain to her that first moment wasn't all of it. It was step one, and you have time to pivot and learn more and readjust.
So it's a process. So coming out for your child is a process. It's also a process as a parent to move through your child coming out or coming out as a parent of a gay child.
Absolutely.
I love that the book acknowledges that, though.
Yes.
And I think that is the key to really the making it understandable for a parent that wasn't expecting that curveball, that wasn't expecting that change in their life. Because a lot of parents, I'm sure when they find out their child's gay, they're like, wow, I never thought that was, and there is that moment of like, okay, it's no different than parents when like I always tell the story about like when I always imagined I was going to have a son. Like I was like, dude, surfer, skater, oh my God, this is amazing. And then that moment where I had to have an adjustment.
You do have a son, Joe.
No, I know I do. I have 2 kids.
Just a little reminder.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is when I had my daughter, she was the first one, so there was that moment that I had to adjust just from that. So I couldn't imagine a parent not having that opportunity. Do you ever feel that you do not have enough time in the day to do what you're supposed to get done? You know, you're going to work, you're maybe trying to hit the gym, but you forgot that, I got to pick so-and-so up from daycare. I got to get my dad over to his doctor's appointment. I wanted to pick up the house before I left. Wow, check it out. How am I going to get everything done? Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Go to care.com. Care.com. Care.com is the world's largest digital marketplace for finding and managing family care. That is right. Family care needs can be unpredictable. You got sick kids. You need someone to stay home. Man, both parents are out there trying to make a living. Your kids get sick. Who's going to stay home? Who's going to miss out on that cash? Now you go to care.com and they'll have someone for you that can look after your kids. Don't stress your life away. Seriously, most working parents worry about their kids every minute of the day. You're more at ease and more focused when you know your kids or your parents or even your pets are well cared for. Best part is this, care.com provides access to a variety of background check options you can purchase to help make sure that you're making the best hiring decision. That's my favorite part right there. They're letting you know there's a million different things for you to check out on the background check options so you know who's going to be there with your kids or with your parents or with your pet taking care of the situation. Care.com. Check it out now. If you go to care.com right now, you ready for this? To save 30% off care.com premium membership, visit care.com/rad parenting when you subscribe, and you're going to get 30% off. Like I said, the world's moving a million miles an hour. You just want to take care of your kids and all the responsibilities. Let care.com help.
Yeah.
So just rewinding really quick, when you said, if you don't, I don't want to go too deep, but you said, man, my mom felt like she blew the opportunity. And it sounds like it might have been a little different than Anea's dad's response.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning. Do you mind bringing that up?
No, not at all.
Set the stage.
So it's Thanksgiving Day.
Oh my gosh, football's on. Here we go.
Yeah. No, we're at the table.
That
We're at the table.
You had planned that it was...
No, I mean, like I had definitely wanted to somehow broach this topic, but I did not. I had just gone away to college, and it was my first time back.
Okay.
And
how many people at the table?
It was just my immediate family. Okay. So it was just my mom and my dad.
I thought you were like going for, I'm going to get it out of the way.
No, yeah.
Aunts and uncles, cousins.
People do it. But no, for me, it was just my mom and my dad. My sister was only 12 at the time, and we had finished the meal, and she had left the table.
Got it.
And my mom is very religious, and she had given me like a student translation of a Bible. And at this point in my life, I was in a phase where I was just angry about everything. And I was reading things just to be like, this is dumb, and this is dumb, and this is also, so I went up and I was like, I want you to know what you gave me was really offensive. And I read this passage about homosexuality that I was like, the translation is ridiculous. And my mom had asked me, from when I was 12, she had asked me, are you a lesbian? Are you a lesbian? And at 12, I didn't know anything. I was like, no, why would you say that? Even saying like, gross, mom, no, like I didn't. But at this point I knew. And so I told her, no, don't ask me. If I'm going to tell you, I'll tell you. Don't ask me. But I really pushed her with the Bible thing. And so she said, I know you said not to ask you, but is there something you have to tell us? And I looked across the table and I just made the decision right then. Like it was very split second for me. And I said, yes, there is. I want to tell you that I'm bisexual. And then there was this like horrible silence where I was like, oh God, I said it.
Right.
And I know, like I've said some things in my lifetime, like when you throw them out, but like, you say something that you totally feel. And then you realize, whoa, did I just say that? Did you have that moment?
Yes.
Like, it's out there.
Because you can't take it back.
You can't unring a bell. You can't unring a bell.
Exactly. And my dad was amazing. Like yours, right away, and was just like, we love you. We just want you to be happy. My mom did say, like, we'll love you no matter what, but she reminded me actually after the book came out. I didn't put this in the book because I forgot, but she actually burst into tears like at the table, and that was, and she holds some regret. I think we've worked through it at this point, but she felt really bad that she couldn't sort of keep it together. But she, she was coming from a Catholic upbringing.
Sure.
And for her, this was like devastating. And it was like 10 years of work for us to get to where we are today, which is a great place.
That's great.
Wait, what was her response? Because I think it's really, I have my own thoughts and feelings around religion, but what did she say when you initially were like, this is not okay?
Oh, to the translation?
Yeah.
I mean, my mom, I think she had the standpoint that a lot of people have who are, Catholic and who've been raised
indoctrinated,
Catholic. Yeah, which is sort of like it took her a long time to understand the concept of translation, like that the Bible had been translated to begin with.
Sure.
So she very much believed that God had said this was bad and wrong, and she very much believed that I was going to hell. And that, it's really fascinating.
Which you have a chapter on, by the way.
I do. I thought that chapter was going to be the easiest one for me to write because it was all of
Your
my experience. And I sat down to write it, and I was like, I didn't know how to start. I didn't know how to write in a way that would be accessible to somebody who is coming from a religious vantage point. And actually, just a quick story, but my aunt, who is still very religious and still definitely like accepts me, loves me to a point, but didn't come to my wedding, for example. She helped me write that chapter. It was this like really. It was like the perfect picture of how hard it is to understand people who are coming from a Christian background and trying to deal with loving somebody who has come out because she wanted to help. She wanted to help me do this thing. And so I had her read that chapter several times. And she would say, the way you phrase this, like that might make me put the book down. So we would rephrase it. We would, we worked really hard to make that chapter accessible.
So to put that into perspective though, like the reality of parenting is one of the big realizations we have as parents is, my kid, and as a woman, that kid grew inside my body. It's really hard not to feel like we are like deeply connected, and to have the realization for any parent, regardless of what you're doing with your child, that they are a separate human being on their own journey, and that there is going to be pushback on a number of things that are things we hold as deep, values that we've worked through and we've come to this place of comfort. And then all of a sudden they throw us a curveball and we have to figure out, how do I continue to honor my own path and my way of understanding the world and allow space and love and support for them to do and have the same.
Absolutely.
And so whether it's this about sexuality or whatever.
Right. And that, I talk a lot about the fact that I came out, I was 17, and my mom and I had like a decade worth of processing and talking and crying and all of this stuff. And it wasn't until I was about 27 that I actually had that space. Because for the 10 years that we were doing that, I was fighting.
Sure.
I was saying, I'm gay, I'm bisexual. She was saying, no, you're not.
Yeah.
I didn't really get to explore what I actually was and how I actually felt until I was 27 years old. And I said, am I gay? Am I bisexual? What am I? And I finally had that space. And I think it would have been really incredible to have had that earlier.
Sooner. Right. To be able to let you get to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that we're feeling right now in the world, which is great, being a parent, sitting on this end of the microphone and having two kids and having their friends begin the journeys that they're beginning, is that it was where the world is at, as crazy as it is that these conversations that we're having right now in this room and that the people are listening are finally happening, and all of the emotions and energy that maybe the generations before us, because I know that there's plenty of, your father very accepting right off the bat, your dad, right off the bat, but there's still the mom or the dad that cry, oh my gosh, this is so hard for me to understand. And then they finally come around. Like I always like to say, they were throwing a curveball, but you have an opportunity to hit a home run. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I like analogies.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Pretty rad analogy.
We do a lot of analogies here.
Yeah.
That was a really good one, Joseph.
Yeah, that is, right? Yeah, it's almost like I wrote it before I came in here, which I might have. But my point being is, we're in a time in society where there's books like this out there for people to have that opportunity to read, whereas in the past, I don't think it would have been published. I don't think it would have been out there. There was this taboo. How can you be bisexual? How can you like both? Transgender. What are you talking about? But now the world that we're living in, thankfully, we're in a place where parents are educating themselves. And also, I think it's generations of people that have grown up with their best friend being gay. And you're like, okay.
Right.
One of my best friends growing up as a kid, he was my mentor, was gay. And I remember, I'll never forget, my dad gave me the best lesson ever as a kid because he was older than me, and I went to New York for my first time. I'm running around the city, and I was friends with him, and I knew he was gay, but we never talked about it. Everyone, and I remember he invited me to his house for dinner, his apartment, and I was like, oh, he's inviting me over. Oh my gosh, it's been his plan for the last 10 years. And I called my dad. I'll never forget, I called my dad, and I tell him the whole thing. He's all, Joey, get over yourself.
Nice.
Dude, not everyone wants to sleep with you, bro. And I was like, he didn't say that. He said, Joey, get over yourself. Come on. This is your friend. Really? And I
Nice,
I was like, wow. I was probably
Love
at that
it.
point 18 years old, 19.
Yeah.
I'm in
Yeah.
New York. But, that having that generation in my life, really, I was lucky. And I feel like the parents that are listening to this show, myself as a parent, and all of us, is that really, hopefully, in the future, when our kids have kids, we won't need this book. I mean,
That is the hope.
yeah,
I hope
it's out of print because people are like, I don't need it. I
Yeah.
don't need the My Kid is Gay book because
But
you know what? I know how to handle it.
You know what I do want to say too about the book though is that yes, of course, if
And I don't want it to be out of print right now.
No, but like
You're
but
like, we need
I
to
think
sell a few more copies.
But you bring up an important point, I think, because the book is certainly helpful for parents who are struggling, but it's not just for something that was very interesting to me when the book came out was the amount of parents who felt like they should not have any questions. That having questions would mean they were, like super prejudiced or super homophobic or what have you. And I said, I've done this work. First of all, I am a bisexual woman. I've lived the experience. Second of all, I've done this work actively for like almost 10 years now, and I still have questions. There's still more that I need to learn. So there's no way, even if you are the most accepting, loving parent, this book is important, and learning more about the LGBTQ community, it's really, really important to you understanding your child and to being able to have those conversations.
It's what you said from the beginning, a resource. It's a place to go. It's a place to, I didn't think about that. I can go to this.
Right. And because those books in the 60s and 70s that I talked about, the reason we had to write this book is because those books were like, oh man, your kid is gay, bummer. Let's tell you how to deal with this horrible news. And we were like, come on, we're past that. Like, we need to move past that. We need to be explaining to parents that, like, if you're excited, great, here's some information. If you're confused, great, here's some information.
Yeah. If you're terrified and this is flying in the face of your own belief system, here's some information.
And how about this? Just going back to our sexuality show that we did, I think I wish there was a book, and there are a few that are for parents that are afraid to even talk to their kids that are straight. There's so many parents that they're just scared altogether, sex altogether. Yes. Oh my gosh, how will I maneuver any of these waters? And to have, like I said, this book right there, to have that, it's a real guideline. And like I said, the thing that I loved about it was I was just able to cruise around in it and just touch on the chapters, which I feel is so important, because if it gets too much to digest, I feel like it could turn someone off. But
and the icing on the cake, of course, is like the little bottom line sections at the end of each chapter with the let me just bullet point this chapter for you. It's just so good. Like,
bullet
it's like the too long didn't read.
Exactly. It's just so good.
This is the section for the person that has no time. Boom.
Right.
I love that.
You got ADD? Go to the bottom line at the end of the chapter.
Absolutely.
So good. So can you tell us how beyond this brilliant book, where parents can go to get more information, where there's, they can maybe direct their kids? Because I know you've got two different sites with two different audience focus.
Of course. So the book is, first of all, the book's available wherever books are sold. So Amazon, it's an ebook, the whole nine.
And keep listening, because we're going to give away one for free.
Yep.
That's right.
Whoop, whoop.
Contest.
There's an air horn effect there, right?
Yeah. Turns into a morning show in here. You're like, whoa, why did Joe just ring a bell? Is that a cowbell you have?
So when we were writing the book, another thing we noticed was there wasn't a lot online either. So we started a site. It's called mykidisgay.com, sticking with the very obvious title theme. And we have ongoing resources there. It lets us dig a little deeper into things. And actually, just about a week ago, we released something called the Coming Out with Care package, which I'm so excited about. It's just, if you go to mykidisgay.com/coming out with with care. There's the whole links and everything is there. But basically, you just put your email in, and we send you an e-care package that starts you with the common questions of advice. It gives you resources that are outside of My Kid is Gay. There's a music playlist, a journaling page, and a coloring page. I have a welcome video, and I'm really, really excited about it because it's kind of like, step one. It gives parents not only advice but self-care, which I think is really important in this too.
Good.
Yeah.
So
Can I
good.
ask also, I noticed that you're out there speaking. How can people find an opportunity to either book you to come speak or to go see you speak at the events that you do?
Well, I'll tell you what. So the other site that I have is more directed towards young people, and that's everyoneisgay.com. And just emailing me at either info@everyoneisgay.com or Kristin, which is spelled with an I, at everyoneisgay.com. You can definitely ask me to come out and speak. I've done speaking at universities, but I've also done speaking events for guidance counselors, for families, and all manner of things. So I love to engage in that way too.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Right now, we are going to give you an opportunity to win the book. If you go to our Facebook page, Rad Parenting, and you go there, you will see a picture of this book. This is a book for parents of gay kids. There'll also be a photo of the three of us. And all you need to do, you ready for this? Just write a review about our show. That's all you got to do. You got to write a review about our show on iTunes, and you take a little photo of it, and then you email it to radparenting@gmail.com. I know it sounds complicated, but it's not. It's really, really simple. You take a screenshot of the review, and then you email that to us, and then we're going to pick a winner, and we are going to send you this book, and you're going to be stoked because it's autographed, and it's such a great opportunity having you on the show. I'm so psyched that we finally nailed you down to come in here.
Me too. Thank you for being patient with my travels.
No, man, and I can't wait for you to come back again, because what we like to do with our guests, we like to find out their adventures and what else they're working on, which I did want to ask you, do you have another book in the works? What's the...
I don't right now. Right now I'm sort of focusing on, I actually started running, or directing, I should say, a camp for LGBTQ people called A Camp. So I've been doing Everyone is Gay, My Kid is Gay, and then I have this camp, which is why I've been traveling so much.
I think you need more things to do.
One or two. Oh, and speaking of Allison Weiss and I started a project called Our Restroom, which is working to take gender off of single stall restrooms all across the country.
And I saw the video of that.
Yeah. So I just keep at it.
Oh my God,
but
your
I'm
life
sure
sounds like mine.
Yeah, right. I can't say no to projects.
Yes.
This is my issue.
Hey, and projects that are making a difference. That's the best thing about it.
Yes.
Hey, I want to thank all of our listeners today for taking the opportunity to listen to our show. Once again, if you want to get the book, this is a book for parents of gay kids. All you got to do is write a review on iTunes, take a photo of it, send that photo to radparenting@gmail.com. We'll pick a winner and we will send it to you. And winners that have won thing know that I actually send the things. Like, I don't lag on that. Like, I'm pretty good at it, right? Right?
I'm going to take your word for it.
And I want to let everyone know that at one point during this interview, I had to adjust Anea's microphone, and I am officially Anea Bogue's roadie. I am her roadie. I am a guy on the show, but I am a roadie. I did good, right?
You did.
I did good. Like, I wanted to have one of those little flashlights they have, like, run out on stage.
You did it so gently, so I didn't have to miss a beat.
Yeah. I saw it. I witnessed it. It was great. Good job.
Kristin Russo, thank you guys so much. We have a tradition at the end that I say 1, 2, 3, and then we say late. Okay, you ready?
We say late?
We say late.
Yep.
Listen, later.
Ah.
Okay, so I guess is that really a tradition, or is it just the way we say goodbye?
It's our thing.
All right, we'll see you guys all next week. 1, 2, 3.
Late.